Today I'm putting in this ARB air compressor, running some line to the front, got a little T and an elbow, making things fit nice and tight in here. Alright, so I want to explain a little bit about this ARB compressor, reasons why I went with this one, and also the benefits of this one versus the smallest one. This is the mid-grade ARB compressor. It's a single pump. It's not the dual pump. However, I don't think that I really need the dual pump. I could be wrong though. This is a good test. I'll figure it out. If this is not adequate for what I need it for this Jeep, I'll find a use for it on another Jeep or on the truck, one or the other. And I'll just get the dual pump on this Jeep. Not that I really want to spend that money, but I at least have another use for it. So anyways, real quickly, determining location for a mount was the biggest key with this air compressor. Speaking of the mount, they send this bracket, which, there it is. They send you this bracket with the compressor, so that way you can use this as a template or as a back plate if you need to. A couple different options. You could probably weld to this if you really wanted to, if you needed to make your own custom bracket setup. This is pretty easy. I've literally, at this point right now, I've got maybe 30-45 minutes wrapped up in this, and I will show you here. I literally just have a T coming out to a 90-degree elbow. It wasn't really going to do me any benefits coming straight into here. I really didn't want to add this, but didn't really have much of a choice. I used Flexzilla, I think it's called, Flexzilla line. This stuff is incredible. I didn't think it was going to be this easy. It gets a little dirty, which kind of sucks, but nonetheless, it's super easy to work with. These fitting ends, coupler ends, whatever you want to call them, these are super easy to remove. Okay, so these guys aren't exactly easy to remove. However, the fitting itself as a whole is easy to remove. So this is just a shield, a protective sleeve, kind of helps flex with bend and stuff like that. You don't want it to kink right here at the end of the fitting. So this slides on, it pops onto this ring right here on the back of the coupler. But this is a two-piece fitting. You actually make this fitting yourself if you want. So it came to me, and I'll put a link from the Amazon purchase. But these are 25-foot hoses. This is a 25-foot hose. I actually cut it into two pieces, so that way I could utilize it for going from front to back. So I've got it going to the front, so that way I can have a bulkhead fitting, which you guys just saw me installing. It was really pretty simple. Granted, I've put a lot of time into shopping around and finding all these parts, but the hose goes into the back underneath here. Let's see if I can get a decent view of it up in there. So there's the hose going into the back of the bulkhead fitting. It's pretty hard to see, so I apologize. Don't have a quick, easy light to grab for you. Anyways, there's a 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch coupler union in here in between the air coupler and the bulkhead fitting. It's just a really simple connection. Make sure you guys use pipe thread for everything, Teflon tape, whatever you want to call it. So now I have a front port to hook up air in front of the Jeep. Moving back, I've got this set up here, which I've shown you already. It runs under the Jeep. It will be coming back to here. I have not done this one yet. I will do this one in a little bit better detail so that way you guys can see the bulkhead fitting that I'm using. So I'm going to use the 1/8 inch drill bit to get the hole started, then use the step up bit so that way this bulkhead fitting can actually fit inside the hole. So that's how I'm making a large enough hole to get through the sheet metal in order to make this work. Alright, so here's my hole with the bulkhead fitting in it. It has a washer and nut that will thread on the back side. Just in case you're curious, that hole was a mess up. Didn't get quite over far enough like I wanted to. From the bottom side, this will thread into the bottom of the bulkhead. Once I put the washer and nut on it and Teflon tape on the threads. So there is the complete bulkhead fitting. Plumbed up, tightened up, all done. Coming through here with the elbow with the whip. This will plumb into a box that I will build for back here with a basically a airtight sealed box. Alright, and here we have it. The compressor is installed. I did not want to even mess with video and the wiring. I will have to admit it was quite a ridiculous process. So this is the relay for it. This is all the wiring harness that's included with it. Comes up into here, and the red and black wires plug together here. That is part of the wiring harness. This is the pressure switch, which is part of the wiring harness. All the wiring is part of the wiring harness. This 40 amp fuse here, wired in all the way across to the battery, positive and negative. If it's a 12 volt system, you use the black and white wire. If it's a 24 volt system, you also use the black and white wire that is in the ground wire coming over here, this small black and white wire here. If it's a 24 volt system, you run it to your second battery, and you also run a positive jumper over. But this is a 12 volt system, so it doesn't really matter. Just figured I'd throw that little bit of info in there. So my setup is, at the end of the day, I plumbed the pressure switch into the 1/8 NPT thread of the manifold. Unfortunately, this is the only 1/4 inch NPT thread. I did not want to restrict my flow of air. I did not want to have any sort of a bottleneck, so I didn't want to tap into here with my second hose and run this into here. So I just ran a little elbow out of here to adapt from a 1/8 NPT thread to a 1/4 inch NPT thread for the pressure switch. So anyways, that's how I am shutting the system down. This is what reads in the wiring harness. Once it reaches 100 psi, it shuts down the compressor. And as long as your system is airtight, it will hold pressure until it is used in some way or another. I don't know that this is fully effective. This is just a attempt of a remedy to try to eliminate any water getting through the filter and into the compressor housing. So I'm kind of curious to see how this works. It's got a little drain port on the bottom down here. So just with time, I'll see if this collects water or anything. I don't know. It might not work, but it's worth a shot. If anybody knows anything about these filters, let me know. I was thinking about putting another one past the compressor, so that way I don't put a bunch of moisture into my cage, to the tank rather. So currently I have this little setup here, just some extra stuff I had that I'm going to use for the manifold kit. I'm just going to use this to represent how the operation of the compressor works, going up to 100 psi, shutting off, and then losing pressure. And when it gets down to 70 psi, the compressor will kick back on because of this pressure sensor switch. So when it shuts off at 100 psi, and it reads right here, it says on at 70 psi. So it'll kick back on at 70 psi. And I've got everything plumbed in the back. That is complete for now. It's just where I'm going to stop at for today. And this is my dash setup. So I've got lockers. This is also the bypass for the lockers, so I can have the lockers in high speed. I had to move it over a little bit from its original location, but this is where the ARB switch is. So just a nice little rocker that comes with a kit. These are all taken up, and I didn't want to switch to this style rocker, and I would like to keep these outlets, so I didn't want to change things up anymore. So anyways, without further ado, I'm going to turn the key on to the ignition position. You hear the fan kick on because I've got it wired into the ignition, and then that turns on and turns off the compressor. And notice it turned itself off just now because this pressure sensor switch reads 100 psi, which you can see the gauge reads 100 psi, and it shut the compressor off. It got down to 70 psi and built pressure right back up. So obviously a large amount of volume in the system right now due to the fact that I'm only using 1/4 inch airline to run to the front, and also 1/4 inch airline to run to the back. Not a whole lot of length there, maybe only 15 feet of hose altogether. So obviously you can just see the quick operation. As soon as it gets to 70, it goes right back up to 100, and it's just that quick. I haven't tested this out airing up a tire yet, messing with anything like that. Just been trying to get wiring and plumbing set up and ready to go. So more to come in the future as far as the manifold set up in the rear, and I will get all that done probably in the next week or so, hopefully. There you have it.